So this pedigree is showing an X-linked recessive pattern. And there are certain things that we need to keep in mind in looking at X-linked recessive patterns. First, if we are looking at an affected female, we know that the genotype of that affected female must be X_a, X_a. Whereas the unaffected females will have the genotype X_a, X_a, or X_a, X_a. And then if we are looking at affected males, then we know that their genotype is X_y, and unaffected males would have the genotype X_y. So, in looking at this pedigree, some of the things that are important to note as being indicative of X-linked recessive is that you see that if you have an affected mother, then all of her sons must be affected. Again, affected mother and all of her sons must be affected. So you need to make sure that in following these pedigrees, if you see an affected mother, that she doesn't have any unaffected children. That would rule out the possibility of being X-linked recessive. But in this case, it follows along in that same pattern. Okay, so now let's start assigning genotypes. As I already stated, we know that affected females have the genotype X_a, X_a. So we can fill in all that group. Okay, and then next we know that all affected males are X_y, so we can fill in their genotypes as well. And next we have all unaffected males are going to be X_a, Y. So the only group that we have left to figure out are going to be the unaffected females, and their genotypes could be either X_a, X_a, or X_a, X_a. So now let's start with, I usually start on the bottom. We're going to look at this family group here. So we have two unaffected daughters, in this case, from two unaffected parents. And we have an affected son as well. So the only way that this son can be affected is if he got his X_a allele from his mother. And the only way that the mother could have an X_a but still be unaffected is if she were a carrier. So she must be X_a, X_a, and be a carrier for this X-linked recessive trait. Now, given that the father is X_a, or X_y, these two daughters, because they are unaffected, must at a minimum be carriers. Now the mother is X_a, X_a, so she could donate either an X_a to her daughters or an X_a to her daughters. And at this point, we know that both of these daughters must be either X_a, X_a, or X_a, X_a. And at this point, we can't tell the difference between these two. But again, later on, we will put a percentage probability to each one of these. Okay, now the only person that's not assigned in the genotype yet is going to be this unaffected female, 6. So we know that this unaffected female comes from an affected mother and an unaffected father. The only thing the father can give is X_a, and the only thing that the mother can give is X_a. So we know that this daughter must be a carrier. And now we've assigned genotypes to all the individuals in this X-linked recessive pedigree.